What's going on, everybody? This is Rich from Gaming on a Budget, the channel that reviews free or cheap games with the hopes of recommending you some dope shit. So today I'll actually be reviewing Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. So the funny thing is, not too long ago I reviewed regular PSO2, unaware that there would be a new edition of the game coming out, but people quickly let me know in the comments that there was a new version coming out, and I figured when that time came, I would go ahead and revisit Phantasy Star Online 2. So with that being said, the focus of this review is really on how it compares to regular PSO2 and what changes have been made. So without further ado, let's briefly talk about the facts. So the genre of the game is an MMORPG, developed and published by Sega, released just a couple weeks ago. Platforms you'll be able to play this on include Microsoft Windows, Xbox One, and via Steam or Epic Games. And is it crossplay? Yes, it is. So let's go ahead and talk about the story. I won't dive too much into the story because I did cover that in my last video, but just to catch you up, the game is about this intergalactic fleet called Oracle, which travels through deep space using what's called photons. Photons are basically this cosmic energy that can be manipulated by those people who are considered gifted. A task force known as ARCs is responsible for finding new planets to live on. The setting of this game takes place on a planet called Halpha, where ARCs have to defend against the unknown threat known as the Dolls. You play as a Meteoran, basically a person who crash lands onto Halpha via your space pod, and you are without your memories for some reason. The ARCs take you in to team up against the threat of the Dolls. So let's go ahead and talk about the gameplay. So when you start the game, one of the first things you do is choose a server you can play on. You then go on to create your character, or you can play with one you already made from PSO2. That's what I decided to do just to save time. So after putting in some hours into New Genesis, I've come up with some points to talk about, and without further ado, let's get into them. So the first point, visually. So one of the cons that I had about the original PSO2 was the graphics. They weren't all that great, to be honest, and a bit of a turnoff. Textures weren't all the way there, and the environment-wise, it was just kind of, meh. One of the biggest improvements advertised about New Genesis was the graphics, and I have to say, they've improved a bit. I definitely was able to notice some changes, but from my experience playing on the OG Xbox One, it did not really blow me away. One of the things I noticed was this mirage effect. Basically, the environment and NPCs near you looked like decent, but at a distance, they were kind of blurred. I mean, this makes sense, to not fully render something unless the character is within close proximity, but it was still something that caught my eye. I tried messing around with the settings to see if I can get an improvement, and to be honest, for the Xbox One, it seems there's give and take. So by default, the game's graphics are set to balanced with a frame rate of 30. If you want higher frames, the game plays a lot smoother and more fluid, but the quality in graphics drops a lot. So it seems for me at least the sweet spot was 30 frames and the balance setting as opposed to prioritizing graphics. But to be honest, it's not that bad. The environment looked a lot better, and you can see this especially with the forest areas and even with the random animals you came across. Overall, graphically, the game did make an improvement, and I'm super here for that. So next point, the mechanics. So mechanics wise, much is still the same from PSO2 that's in New Genesis, including creating your character. I won't go into super detail about this, but basically you still have great customization in creating your character, the look and play. One thing though I was looking forward to were new inclusive hairstyles for people of color. Let's just say I didn't find that here. Kind of disappointed because I was hoping with the new graphic changes they would go ahead and include this, but nah, they still have the braids and that's it. Matter of fact, check these braids out, man. I mean, like, these ain't even like legit. Like, they start over here, like on the dude's forehead. Like, that's not how real braids are. It's like, if you're gonna include this, like, fucking do it right. You know what I mean? But Sega, just if it's in your power, please go ahead and include more inclusive hairstyles for. Anyways, other than that, classes and shit are basically the same. I just want to talk about what's new. So they added a photon dash in the game, which allows you to sprint. Very helpful because of the original speed in the prior game was a bit annoying. They also added a double jump. Yes, this is one of the first things I noticed and was very happy they included this. Along with the double jump, you can also do a photon glide. Basically, if you jump off a cliff and hold the jump button, you glide in the air. This is mad helpful because you're able to cover more distance in a short amount of time. Kind of reminds me of the gliding I did in DC Universe Online, but anyways, let's not talk about that game. Finally, they added the ability to fast travel using these things called Ryukers. I just call them Ryuk because because I think of Death Note. But anyway, basically whenever you find one, you add it to your map and you can teleport between them. The cool thing is you don't need to be at a Ryuk to teleport. You just go into your map and select the closest Ryuk to where you want to go. Again, mad helpful, you know, because you're able to travel the huge map in a short amount of time. Another mechanic I noticed might not have been the first one, but when fighting enemies, there are certain enemies that have this thing called an enhancer. Basically, these enemies are tougher because they have this device that's connected to them. If you don't destroy that device, then any damage you do directly to the enemy won't be as effective. I thought this was an interesting addition, and it did add layer to combat, which I appreciated. Overall, the mechanics of the game have also improved. Alright, so let's talk about the missions. Mission-wise is very similar to the OG, but I have to bring up one thing. The prologue in this game is mad long, like annoyingly so. They have you do these missions that introduce you to ways to play the game, which is standard, I get it. But it also kind of just felt like a chore to get through these missions and tasks. The game has main story missions and side missions, but these were just too instructional for me. I'm kind of not the patient type, and I like to just get along with the game. Also, you have to beat the prologue before you can play with other players. And the first real mission you play requires you to have a battle power score of 830 before you can do it. Basically, battle power is just how strong your character is, considering things like their weapons and experience. In order for you to get that level, you have to do these annoying side missions for people in the town. And I don't know if it's just me, but I just found this kind of lame, to be honest. And I guess it's just because of my nature of just wanting to play the game and get on with it. But I just found this annoying. So this is what it's like initially. But again, just kind of wanted to mention that. But the missions are basically similar to OG PSO2. So highlights for this game. One of my biggest highlights is definitely the improvements visually. Like I mentioned in prior videos, the graphics can make or break a game for me. And the improvements in New Genesis are definitely a plus. I would love to see this game at its full potential, either on a PC or an updated console, you know. But as of right now, it's good. I really liked how the animals looked. Kind of got like this Jurassic Park feel looking at some of them, and that's where I think the graphics really shine in this game. It's like the environment wise, and with certain enemies and just these creatures, it really shined in my opinion. My next highlight would probably be the new mechanics. Messing around with these new mechanics was a plus for me. I mean, being able to sprint, glide, double jump, these were all just things that, you know, were important because it gave me options to traverse the landscape, and also the added fast travel. The mechanics definitely have been improved since the first game, and I don't know, I'm here for it. Final thoughts, New Genesis is okay. I'm not gonna lie, I like it over the OG for sure, but right now those introductory missions are kind of annoying. Kind of like before, I think the game's gonna shine for me when I play with other people, but as of right now, those missions are just, yeah. Honestly, this game is probably not something I put in a lot of time by myself, but if I had like a crew to play with, I'd be down to run some missions, to be honest. Anyways, in my honest opinion, if you really enjoyed PSO2, or if you're a huge fan of MMORPGs, then I would recommend you check out New Genesis. But as always, I want to ask you guys, what do you think? Are you playing New Genesis? Did you play Phantasy Star Online 2, the original? What are some new things you're liking about New Genesis? How's those graphics looking for you? I want to hear all that in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and drop a like. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. Videos on a weekly basis, including game reviews, streamers you should follow, my live streams that are happening weekly, and just some other shit. A bunch of other shit on the way. But anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for being supporting of the channel. Mad appreciated, mad appreciated. Thank you guys so much. But anyways, this is Rich from Gaming on a Budget. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.